A guy pulls the wrong lever at work. Tragically, 57 people lose their lives. So, how exactly does that one split-second mistake somehow rack up a secret 15.6 billion euro price tag? Welcome to a special investigative report from the Human Error News Network. If you're ready to learn how to spot the deadly institutional disease that's constantly disguised as just human error, you're going to want to join our network today, because right now, we're tearing apart the actual anatomy of a catastrophe.
When a massive infrastructure collapse happens right in your city, the easiest thing for the people in power to do is point a finger at the absolute lowest person on the totem pole, right? You know, the exhausted, overworked employee. But today, we are not looking at the workers. We're following the money, and we're looking at the receipts.
Seriously, think about this for a second. Have you ever made a mistake at your job, only to step back and realize the entire system was completely rigged against you from the jump? We have all felt that crushing pressure. You know, the stress of trying to hold a broken, decaying process together with nothing but duct tape, crazy long hours, and pure hope, only to be the one blamed when the inevitable collapse finally happens. They tell you, well, you should have paid closer attention, but nobody mentions that the very tools you needed to do your job safely were stripped away years ago.
Now, the official narrative from the Greek state after the horrific 2023 Tempi train collision is that a solitary station master just made a mistake. But as an investigator who has spent months analyzing the official documents, the judicial inquiries, and the buried financial records, I can tell you right now that is a lie. This wasn't a mistake. This was an entire ecosystem of state corporate crime and brutal austerity. But look, before we dive into the corporate spreadsheets and these, frankly, unbelievable financial crimes, we absolutely must anchor ourselves to the devastating reality of what happened. 57 people died, and most of them were just university students heading back from a long holiday weekend. Right now, over 350 witnesses are testifying in a massive trial, because this isn't just about data points or budget lines, it is about a completely preventable loss of human life.
Section 1. Anatomy of a broken system.
So academic researchers who've been digging into this disaster characterize it as a product of criminogenic asymmetries. Honestly, that's really just a fancy academic way of saying it's a system where the relentless, cutthroat drive for profit systematically crushes basic safety requirements. This tragedy, it wasn't some freak accident. It was a perfectly normalized context of endangerment. Operating without a safety net wasn't a glitch in the system, it was literally their daily business model.
Okay, you really need to know this term, lawful but awful. It hits the nail right on the head. It perfectly describes actions that technically conform to the strict letter of the law, but produce horrific social harm and serious risks. During the financial crisis from 2010 to 2018, strict austerity policies legally stripped the Greek railways of crucial funding and staff. It was entirely legal to slash that budget, but doing so created a culture where running high-speed trains without functioning automated safety controls just became totally normal.
Section 2. Austerity and privatization failures.
Let's talk numbers, because this is where it gets infuriating. The entire national rail operator was sold off to an Italian group for just 45 million euros. But here is the kicker. The state then inexplicably subsidized those exact same private owners with 50 million euros annually. They were literally handed the keys for a bargain, and the public actually paid them to drive. If you are as outraged by this as we are, make sure you're subscribed to our investigative alerts right now so you can help us uncover the truth. And as you can see on this timeline, it proves this disaster wasn't just some sudden, out-of-the-blue mistake. No, it was a 13-year countdown. From those severe staffing cuts in 2010, straight through to botched safety contracts and privatization, the whole thing led directly to February 2023. At Larissa Station, the evening shift literally had just one single person holding the lives of hundreds of passengers in their hands. So let's talk about the technology that one person was missing. Contract 717 was supposed to upgrade the remote control and signaling systems. Instead, the costs ballooned from 41 million all the way up to 87 million euros. Why? Because the corporate contractors intentionally delayed the project. They actively used system incompatibilities as leverage to extract even more public money. The project was technically finished back in 2016, but get this, it was never activated. Those delays meant the traffic lights on the tracks, quite literally, did not work.
Section 3. Lawful but awful crimes.
Now we're entering the dark underbelly of a railway organization that was operating right out in the open. Parliamentary witnesses have exposed a total shadow network. They actually called it the dark side of the railway. We're talking about corrupt officials running black wagons, which are unregistered freight loads transporting private goods completely off the books.
They had ghost wagons being used as secret storage, and they were siphoning tens of thousands of euros and fuel directly from state trains to sell on the side. The whole system was just being bled dry from the inside out.
All of which brings us to a massive burning question. What caused the huge, completely unexplained fireball upon collision, if it wasn't the declared cargo? 27 of the victims actually survived the initial impact, but tragically burned to death. So why was the crash site mysteriously bulldozed and paved over within a matter of days, destroying vital evidence? Families of the victims are still demanding to know if illegal, highly flammable materials were being secretly transported through those very same corrupt shadow networks we just talked about.
Just think about the absolute terrifying absurdity of this comparison for a second. Two modern trains ran completely blind towards each other for 12 straight minutes without basic traffic lights. Yet, in the background, the European Commission had flagged over 15.6 billion euros in illegal state aids linked to the railway sector. Billions of euros flowing through the system, yet they couldn't even keep a red light shining on the tracks.
Section 4. Fixing the accountability deficit.
So how do we actually fix this? Well, the courts are finally waking up. Just recently, a landmark civil decision ordered both the state-run railway organization and the private operator to pay 400,000 euros each to the family of a victim, and the judge specifically cited gross negligence by the institutions. They completely failed to provide the critical safety systems that would have prevented the crash in the first place. Slowly but surely, the narrative is successfully shifting away from just human error to actual institutional accountability. When a tragedy like this happens and authorities immediately try to point a finger at a single exhausted worker, you now know exactly how to push back. You've got to demand this specific checklist: totally independent regulatory oversight, uncompromising structural safety audits, the aggressive prosecution of procurement fraud, and a hard end to the political immunity that shields top executives from criminal charges when their lawful but awful policies get people killed.
Dozens of people are facing charges in the Tempi trial right now, but the absolute highest level political figures, they are still shielded by immunity. And it forces a genuinely terrifying question. If human error is just a symptom of deep institutional rot, what deadly disease is your own infrastructure hiding right now? I mean, what secrets are buried in the concrete and steel of your daily commute? You have to keep demanding accountability. Join the Human Error News Network to help us uncover the next massive failure before it happens. Because the countdown clock, it's already started ticking somewhere else.